Welcome to Mystery of the Soul, where curiosity meets spirituality. Are you curious about metaphysics, the mystical, and the supernatural? Would you like to learn how they are all part of contemporary spirituality? Join me, Leo McCarthy, a spiritual mentor, psychic medium, Reiki master, EFT tapping practitioner, and a shaman.
And I'm Julia LeBlanc, an awakening soul, a doctor of physical therapy, author, yoga teacher, and Reiki master. We hope that our unique perspectives open the door to an amazing journey of discovery.
Please join us and our guests in conversations about spiritual awakenings, our life's purposes, and mysteries of the soul. Hi guys, welcome back to Mystery of the Soul. This is Leo, and I have Julia here with me. And before we forget, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share us. And tonight we have a special guest. I met her with a network that I'm part of, Find Your Healers. And we have tonight with us Alida Dunn. And Alida, I'm going to turn it over to you and introduce yourself to everyone and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Having me. Nice to meet you, Julia. And hello, Leo. My name is Alida, but actually, this is what we are going to talk about. My last name, my original last name wasn't Dunn, was Moncada, because I was born in Peru. And in Peru, you have different traditions that I really like. Traditions that are really sometimes not scientific based, they don't have any science behind, but you follow them, and I follow a lot of that with my grandparents, basically. I am an attorney. I am a lawyer in Peru, and I still run a plant medicine company retreat in Peru, in the Amazon of Peru. And here in Massachusetts, I working with Family Constellations. That is basically a type of therapy that helps you to break cycles, patterns that you inherited unconsciously from your family system. And sometimes we think like, I never met my great-grandparent. Yeah, but your great-grandparent had an existence, and part of you, part of your DNA has that information. And I love to see how a person comes with a narrative and with an issue, and then unfolds what is the root cause, that it was not that issue. What some people, they say, like, yesterday I saw a person and she said, I cannot have a healthy relationship. Okay, but the healthy relationship was not connected to her own personal life and experience, but to all the unhealthy relationships on her family. And we went back 5 generations, and there was no woman with a healthy relationship. Plus, there were a lot of miscarriages. Like, I'm telling you, a lot more than 5 miscarriages for each woman on each lineage. And that's a lot. And all of those things count. And you don't connect with all the stories in your family system. You connect with 1 or 2 stories, and that will be enough for you to sometimes have this weight that you don't understand, right? Why am I repeating this situation? But also, we have to understand that karma is not drama, and you have the option to only take strength. And I always give this example in my classes. If I give you now, Leo, I have 50 pounds of tangerines, please take them with you. You will probably tell me, I'm not going to eat 50 pounds of tangerines in 1 week. They are going to get rotten. I don't want that. I just want to get 1 pound. And that's what we are supposed to do, but we don't do it. And that's what I'm so fascinated about family constellations, that it sounds boring, that name, right? But that's the name. Actually, the name was family reparation, but they couldn't translate it from German, right, to Spanish or to English. So they call it family constellations. So yeah, that's who I am. Thank you for having me.
So, Alida, how did you, I guess, what sparked you going down the road with your ancestry, and how did you get into family constellations?
I think that you will like this story. I got pregnant first, and the first thing that we need to see is the names. Even if you have the root of a name that is similar, for example, if my name is Alida, it could sound as Alicia in Spanish, right? Ali. So those ones also count to see if there is a connection. There are more chances to have a connection or an entanglement with this type of names, right? When you repeat them. Well, my name is Alida. My mom's name is Alida. And I got pregnant I know the exact date that I got pregnant. It was December 15, 2013. And I decided to have a home birth because that's the way that my grandmothers were doing it, like 12 children, 8 children. But I went to a doctor and he said that my daughter will be born on September 27. And I said like, phew. Until then, I didn't know anything about family constellations. I was like, okay, because my dad was September 25th. So I was like, it's okay because it's going to be 2 days apart. So I had a bad relationship with my dad. I thought that I had a bad relationship with my dad. My daughter was born on September 20th. And I knew that she would be born on September 20th because my husband and I, we pulled tarot cards, but my husband was still doing ayahuasca while I was pregnant. And he will see my daughter since 2012. And she will say, I'm going to be born on September 20th. Well, she was born on September 20th. And I called my oldest sister and she came to visit. And I said like to my sister, I said like, I had the baby, I remember exactly. And I was like, I'm so happy that she was born on September 20th and not September 25th like my dad. And she's like, wait a second. Do you know who was September 20th? And I was like, who? She's like, our grandfather, my dad's dad, who died the day of my birthday. Right? And I was like, oh. And then I was like, and then I started reading about it. And then I realized how we were repeating everything. It's a constant repetition, unconscious repetition, that inner force that I didn't even understand, right? There is what we call the master relationship, when you have almost 6 months apart between each family member, but not the same year, just the month and the day. So I am March 30th, and my father is September 25th. Those are almost 6 months. And those are relationships like I teach you and you teach me, but we are gonna have issues, right? Mm. And it's usually based on careers. And I remember I finished the school when I was 16. My dad was an attorney, he was a lawyer. And he said like, I was like, Dad, I want to travel around the world. And he's like, no. And he's like, you're gonna be a lawyer, a doctor, or an engineer. I don't know how to do math. I didn't want to study 12 years to be a doctor, and my dad was already a lawyer. I became a lawyer when I was 21 years old. And then you will see us, like, I will get my master's degree immediately. I'm going to work in this place. And my dad is like, no, you don't know how to write this type of documents. And then when I moved to Massachusetts, that your database is beautiful, better than in my country, I found out that my husband's grandfather, paternal grandfather, was also born on September 20th. So my daughter chose to carry the information of 2 of her great-grandparents, well, great-grandfathers, correct? And they both had a tragic death. And she needs them because I only want her to have strength from them, right? Because you remember when a person dies, we think like, or we think that they were like the best person, they didn't have any mistakes, right? Like, oh, remember this person? Or we always think about something bad about the person, how they died, if it was an accident. But the story of a person goes more than that, like it goes farther than that, because you had a life, you have a childhood, you were good at cooking, you were good at soccer, all those things make you a person, right? So I did this systemic, what I call systemic or experiential exercises, not with my daughter because she's too little. I did it with me because I was the bridge to send her that information, right? And that was the way that I got into family constellations. And then I understood why I repeated. My mom only had one daughter, me. I only have one daughter, my daughter. My sister, who is June, in the same line, March, June, September, and December, she only has one daughter. We all have the A name. All we're Alexa, Antoinette, Alida, my dad Aurelio, AM. So everyone repeats the AM. It's very interesting.
Sounds it.
I was going to say that is very interesting. How did your kind of early experiences, spiritually or even otherwise, how do you feel like that shaped your understanding of inherited trauma and soul healing?
Like the other spiritual experiences that I have had.
Yeah, like when you were younger.
Well, I was very spiritual, or I don't know. I think that we are all spiritual, right? But in my family, we did a lot of herbalism and a lot of Wiccan, what you call here magic. A lot.
Mhm.
I'm telling you, a lot. When I was 8 years old and I was reading the tarot with my grandmother, I was calling the dwarfs so they can bring money, right?
Mhm.
All the things, and which they did actually. But for me is that here in United States, for example, you can bring your father if they have an issue to a nursing home, right? And morally, you don't feel bad, right? Under the society, it's okay to do it. But in Peru, it's not like that. You have to
Mhm.
carry with all the things in your family, like even when you cannot. Like all of my family members that I have lived with, they all have died in the house that we all share in the same bedroom, right?
Wow.
So, but for me, when I turned 25 is when I met my husband. He was already working in the Amazon rainforest of Peru. He's from Massachusetts, but he was already there. So I had my first ayahuasca experience when I was 27. In the last day of my law school, that it was October 8th, 2024, when I finished the last exam, I was walking back from the bus station, and my grandmother, the grandmother that I lived with, she passed, and I ran to the house, and they put a mirror here to see if she was still breathing. So I said, like, "Grandma," and she went like, right, and she passed. And then I started working as a lawyer in the Congress. That for me was the best place to work, but it was the worst place. Well, I don't want to get into politics, but that place, it's horrible. The energy is horrible. And I was sick. I got lost into being the good lawyer and working 24 hours, right? Then I met my husband, who was doing ayahuasca, and who was seeing extraterrestrials, who was seeing all the spirits in the world. But I haven't mourned my grandmother. Why? Because my father told me, you cannot mourn your grandmother, because then your mom, you won't be able to help your mom. And that's parentification. That's an issue in family constellation. I'm not supposed to support my mom. She's the one who is in charge of supporting me. When I did ayahuasca, the first person that I saw with my eyes open, I'm in the Amazon, with my eyes open, is my grandmother. My grandmother. And she talked to me exactly the same way that she would talk to me. She's like, what are you doing here? You never talk to your mother, right? Just being always like that. And that was my first experience to really open myself to be weak, because it was so hard for me to be weak, right? I need to be better than my dad, better than everyone. To cry like that, cry that you cry like with all the emotions. And then I quit my job. Then I quit my job, and then we started this nonprofit that we have now in Peru. So one thing led to the other one.
Mhm.
And I think that it's been the perfect path for me.
Alida, your grandmother that you talk about sounds like she was a very important person to you. Is there like a conversation or a story that you remember from her that kind of keeps you, you know, is your compass, I guess, for like your mission or your purpose?
There's no conversation, but there is one moment because we live together, right?
Mhm.
And what she died from was, I don't know how you say it in English. Is this when you get fibers growing in your lungs? It's like a
Okay.
type of lung disease, fibrosis, lung fibrosis. I don't know what is the translation, but now then I figured out why she developed that, right? So she couldn't walk because it was so hard for her to walk, and she was very. I mean, I'm not tall, right? She was shorter than me, and one day she hugged me. It was like 1 week before she passed. She hugged me between my bedroom and her bedroom, but I hugged her and she was, and I will never forget that hug. It was so, I don't know. It was not emotional. She started crying, but it was just that unconditional love, that frequency that.
Mhm.
So I remember that. And but actually my grandma, every time that I have done any type of mediumship or that I do ayahuasca, my grandmother is basically right there, right? Like all the time.
Yeah,
But
that unconditional love is powerful.
Yeah.
I think, have you ever heard about, I want him to be famous, but he didn't become that famous. He passed already. His name is Leonard Lascaux, and he read this book Healing with Love. And he guides you through these meditations, and he explained to you
Mm.
how is the frequency. And I have done that meditation like several times, and every time I am surprised how no one will have any problem if they thought that you love me enough, I have enough love. I always say this, every trauma is connected with some sort of love issue, right? My dad didn't love me enough. My mom abandoned me. My partner is cheating on me. He doesn't love me enough. All the things are always connected to love. So I always see that love is where we need to go when we try to heal.
Mm.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the wounds that people have are connected to that unconditional love that we seek.
Mm.
And when we feel like there's a lack of, or we're abandoned, or we feel lost, it just triggers that.
But there is one thing, and maybe it's not, my ideas are not very popular, but we seek because I feel that I lack, correct? But if I go one step behind, and if I tell you, your mom didn't have any other resources, she didn't have any other resources. She couldn't make it the way that you want, even though that hurt you. Because it's true, that hurt you. It hurt me, but she didn't have. Then I can see with another eyes that situation, right? And then maybe, hopefully, I will let go because I cannot resisting to the idea that that could have been different because that's impossible. I cannot change the past.
Right? Because they have their own wounds that they're struggling with, and they lack the resources, just like we lack our resources sometimes to kind of support our people sometimes.
But if you have a line of siblings from the same mother and the same father, they have lived in the same house. Every single sibling talks and say things about their parents different from each other.
Mhm.
Why? Because from my perspective, I see my mom in this way. You see her in another way. That means that what I'm telling you is not true. It's my perspective of who I think that
Mm.
is my mother. And there is a book that is called Where Are My Coins? It's in Spanish. It's from Joan Garriga. And he explained how when we choose our parents, right, we made a contract. I want you to be my parents, even if it was for 1 day, 2 days, or for 88 years. In that contract, once I am born, My mother is the one who is going to give me the chance to live. I take my first breath because of my mother. Even if her pregnancy was horrible, it doesn't matter. During that instance, there is an exchange of energy. My mom says, her soul says, I'm going to give you $5. And the child can say, okay, you can give me $5. I'm going to make the best with those $5. I'm going to invest them. I'm going to have a purpose in my life. I'm going to find a good career. I'm going to find a good partner. But there are souls, some children say like, I don't want $5. I need $1 million. So I don't take any of that. And then you lack 50% of the energy that you need to live for the rest of your days because you reject those $5. She only had $5. And that's very, very, very common. It has happened to me in my narrative my whole life, for my first 31 years. Before, when I started doing family constellation, actually, my narrative was, my father didn't love me enough. Me, I will tell you. I don't care about my dad. I'm not going to talk to him. He only paid for my studies, but he wasn't present for me. When I did family constellations, the issue was not with my father. The issue was with my mother, because my mother was not 24 hours with me, but she was not emotionally available. I didn't have my mother with me. And there was an early separation because she had a cesarean and because she got sick. So I needed to leave the hospital as a baby without seeing my mother. How are you going to explain that to a baby? Your mother got an infection. You cannot see your mom for 4 weeks. You cannot nurse. That's an early separation. That's what I call the interrupted movement of love. And that breaks your heart. And I didn't have the capacity to put all the pieces together of my heart and see my mother as an adult, as my mother. So that my issue was never with my father. It was with my mother. And that was only revealed when I did this type of exercises.
Alida, I'm a physical therapist, and so I work with a lot of patients who have like chronic pain. And I really like, from all of the things that I've seen in the 20 years that I've been doing this, it's fascinating to me how the mind can have such a big effect on the body. How often would you say you see unresolved ancestral traumas manifesting physically?
All the time. Yesterday I did my all the time. Even with me, it has
Yeah.
happened to me. Yesterday I did the second class of my group class of the 4th month, and it was the mother and physical illnesses. Because the mother's energy, the feminine energy, when I take my mother, is gonna give me physical health. If I didn't, I'm gonna have struggles. And you can see that when a child is under 7, 10 years old and they have chronic illnesses, they didn't create it. It's connected with something with the bond with the mother. So I see that all the time because people, for example, yesterday, a woman, she has Bell's palsy, right? And then we found out that her uncle, the brother of her mother, got in an accident, got paralyzed that side of his face, right? And no one talked about it. And then he passed. So if she could have had enough energy and enough bond with her mother, she wouldn't have developed that. So I always see, because I also do holistic treatments, I do biomagnetism and bioresonance. And in my intake form, I usually ask to the person these 2 simple questions, and that give you a lot of information. What could your mother could have done better? And what could your father could have done better? You have a lot of information because they're going to use the same verbs. And so I see it a lot. I think that trapped emotions, inherited trauma is expressed in the body.
It sounds like your I was just going to say, it sounds like your description of like when the baby's born and the lack of either contact with mom, if there's a lack or there's space between or there's not immediate contact, it almost affects the baby or the child's like energetic immunity, it feels, right?
Yes, it affects their capacity to love, because the first person that shows you love is your mother, and the
Mm.
first person that you love is your mother. And then later, when that bond is not established, guess what is going to happen? You're not going to have a healthy relationship.
I always say that childbirth is traumatic for the mother and the baby. And it would be very interesting to see if in that, after that moment, if there was something done to help that, like if it would be a different experience.
But I'm going to say something, right? About,
Yeah.
I told you how my mother was not emotionally available. My mom came back from the hospital, and I guess that she felt bad. I haven't seen my daughter in 1 month, right? So her whole life, and if I allow her now, she will still do the same. She wants to be over me, right? Like, what are you doing? Every single thing. And that's overwhelming, right? She's not going to compensate that. That month cannot be compensated, and I'm not judging her. That month happened. It has a time and an effect. But then you can recover of those effects. Yes, you can. But I gave birth. I had a home birth. I quit my job. I was working then as an attorney in the mining department of Peru. I nursed my daughter because, look, I was living the shadow of my mother with me, right? I was like, I'm gonna nurse this child every 45 minutes, every 30 minutes. I'm gonna go sleep. And I did it. I did it for 4 years. I was exhausted. I didn't sleep. Imagine don't sleeping. I was like crazy. But when I finished nursing, I was flying from Boston to Peru because we were still living there. And we were on a flight because we came for Christmas. And I told my daughter, I said, like, look, she's talking, she's 4 years old. And I said, like, I cannot nurse you anymore. I need to sleep. And she said this. Yes, mommy, it's okay. I'm going to start sucking my thumb. You know why she started sucking her thumb? Because what I gave her was not enough. Because I was not emotionally available. And I nursed and I gave so much milk to the hospital, 40 ounces a week. So it doesn't mean that I need to see you. It's that I need your energy with me. I need to be higher than her, right? So she can receive it.
Hang tight, guys. We'll be right back.
Alida, what would you say is the most profound transformation that you've witnessed during a family constellation session?
That I have seen in a client.
Yeah. That you're able to talk about or share.
Yeah. There was this person, I think that a mother becomes a mother once you conceive. If the baby doesn't stay with you, that's different. But you were still a mother. You had the option to conceive. So this person has had 8 miscarriages. And he was going through IV and a lot of things, treatments. And those treatments are traumatic too, because sometimes you feel bad, right? When you don't get pregnant. We did like 3 sessions or maybe 4 sessions. And then she got pregnant and she has a baby. And that's something that is, for me, it's because I'm a mom. And so I relate to that story, kind of like, like you want to have a child or something like that. So I always remember that story. But I see so many people with different stories, right? I remember another woman. She came, but that was like 3 years ago. And she said, like, I cannot have healthy relationships. Every single man that she has ever dated, they were married. So we are doing the systemic exercises. I don't know anything about her mom or her dad. The only thing that she told me is that she doesn't talk to the father and doesn't talk to her mother. She lives very, very, how can I say, like, she doesn't have enough money. This person didn't have enough money. So we are doing the movement, and sometimes I use like these peg dolls, or I use pieces of paper to represent different situations or people. But the client doesn't know what I'm doing, right? So I put a paper for her, a paper for her mother, and a paper for her father. So I said, like, where do you want to go? You see these papers? And it was impulsive. It was an impulse. She ran towards the father's paper, and she said, I only want to stay here. It feels like I want to hug this. I don't know. I don't want to move. I don't want to move. But the mother, that it was I said, like, can you stand there? And she's like, I'm angry. I'm nauseous. You know what was the story? The story was that she was next to the father. She was not in her genealogical position. First thing, right? Because she's next to her father. You're not supposed to be next to your father. You're in front of your parents. But the other thing was that when the mother was pregnant with that client, the father cheated on the mother. She was representing the third person, right? But there is more. That third person got pregnant. So she had a sister. But my client was connecting with the story and with the pain of the other woman. That's what she was getting, only married men. Guess what? We finished the session. I remember exactly. It was a Sunday and it was snowing, but she came all the way from Wakefield, something like that. So it was a long drive. And she said that the only person that I have ever loved was my ex-boyfriend from 3 years ago. As she's putting on her boots, and I'm putting on my boots because it's snowing, the person called, the ex-boyfriend called to tell her that he got divorced. Isn't it amazing? Because you unlock these channels of energy, right? It's like a hose. You have different knots, right? And now you are removing those knots, and now the energy flows different. I'm not doing anything. It's the energy that is giving to you. I remember that one.
It's kind of like the universe tapped that ex-boyfriend on the shoulder and say, hey, she's open now.
Yeah. She just finished her family constellation session. Call her. Yeah. Yeah, I love that story too. And she just texted me like after like 2 years or something like that, last week or something, but asking me about plant medicine. But it's good, right? And now that the way that you create your abundance and your prosperity changes too. Because abundance is connected to your mother and prosperity is connected to your father. So a person that comes that is very shy, because I see children, there's something happening with the father or with the energy of the father in the lineage, right? So it's very interesting to see. I kind of like, part of this is that I train also to see the body language, right? The way that you sit, the way that you look. Like some people, they are always like, you ask them something, they go like this, right? That means that they are connecting with something else that is not theirs, right? So I think that I do it a lot when I'm talking to someone, like, but I don't want to do it, right? But sometimes
Alida, do
yeah.
you work with families or do you typically do things that are like more one-on-one?
I always start one-on-one, and then sometimes
One-on-one.
I do couple sessions, but first it has to be one-on-one. Now, last week I think that I saw a couple, but they came one-on-one, and in 2 weeks I'm gonna see them as a couple. Because basically a couple is one energy, right? Once you have your partner, but you have to balance what I have. I am balanced. You are balanced. Now we put it together, right? But yeah, I see. I don't know. I saw someone to like someone from Peru. I just saw someone from Peru on Friday or something, and she came because she wanted me to see her son, who is 16 years old. So I said, like, what is the issue? Because she's gonna tell me the issue that is for her, right? And she said, like, he doesn't talk to me. He doesn't want me even to touch him. He rejects me, but he gets along with my husband and with his sister, but not with me. It's like she hates. She said, like, I just don't Mom, I just hate you. Like, so I did a constellation, but not for the boy. I did a constellation with a client that is older, my age, and to see what's happening. And then I brought him. You know what happened? Is that the boy, the name of the boy, they named him after the brothers-in-laws who died of leukemia when he was 9 years old. But my client's sister died when she was 13 of lung cancer. So in the two systems, that's what I'm telling you. The system of the father and the system of the mother, they are always create a mirror. That's what happened with my daughter, right? She has the information of two great-grandfathers. But what happened, you know why children die? That's what I was telling you before. Because children die because they don't have enough feminine energy. There is a blockage with the mothers of the system. When I bring one of my tarot cards, the boy comes with the high priestess. The high priestess in my tarot card, not as a rider white, a regular, is that ancestral cycle breaking, represents the grandmother or great grandmother. So it's a boy. So he comes with feminine energy, right? And when I go 5 generations after him, the problem started 4 generations before him. They got called the client because you ask the client how they are feeling with their body. That's what is going to tell you what you need to say, what you need to do. When we unblock the maternal lineage, then I could work with the boy and his parents so he can take them. He can say, Mom, I take life from you. Dad, I take life from you. But I needed to go to the root cause why he was rejecting the feminine.
That's so interesting. It's just kind
Yeah.
of like the naming of him and the lineage on the mom's and dad's sides, because of those other people that died early, is like that lack of energy, or the energy was cut short too early. Is that am I following a little bit?
I think when you are named after another person, you are going to copy paste the information. You are not going to say like, I'm only going, because you are a baby, you are not going to say, I only going to take your medals. No, I take everything. And every single baby, every single child is seeking for love. Sometimes I'm going to do it because I think that you're going to love me more, right? But naming someone after another one is going to mark the way that you're going to live your life. I always say this. If the person is alive, you're going to live one foot with that story and another foot in your story, in your present. And that person, when I do systemic movements, usually that person is always facing to the past because they cannot connect fully to the present. That child, the boy, that 16-year-old, he doesn't do sports. He doesn't want to go to school. He doesn't do, and he started his symptoms, that rejection, when he was 9 years old. At the same age, then his uncle died. So he's repeating. That's called also the anniversary syndrome. You repeat things at the same time, at the same age. So but there are solutions. For example, a solution for the names is a nickname. So his name is Jorge, that is in Spanish, but the translation is George. So they sometimes call him George. So I was like, call him George. Only call him, even if he on his birth certificate said Jorge, call him George, because that makes a difference, right? The soul of the system doesn't understand that I'm this Alida from 1982 and my mom is Alida from 1947, right? The system doesn't understand. They just think that they are the same energy. The other way to do it is like, I have one client, only one, but from Peru, that she changed her name. She changed her name, not for like, if it was Alida, she didn't put like, I don't know, J-Lo or something like that, right? She put a name like a regular name, a similar name, but it was different.
So
that's really interesting,
yeah,
because you think of all the people who have named their children after, a junior, or it's the third, or whatever it is.
But the thing is that, like I said before, for example, my mom has great qualities. My mom is a good mom. So I only want to take that from her, right? So I have already made my work, and I said, like, look, I only want to take that stuff from you. My name is the same than yours, but to me, my family call me Alidita, and to my mom they call her Alida. So at least they
Mhm.
make that difference, right?
So there's like a different signature to the name to separate you guys from your mom and you.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
interesting. I think this might be a good opportunity. You had mentioned your deck
Yes.
earlier, working with someone. I know this is on pre-order now. You said, right?
Yeah, it's on pre-sale. I made it, like, I completed on December 31st. And my
Hmm.
husband helped me with the draw with all of the design, so that was very nice. But in family constellations, basically the way that I set it up is because you have an archetype. I have a way that is always going to lead me to be like that, right? Connected to illnesses, the way that I will think. So I have 21 cards as an archetype. I have the other cards that are wounds and connections, like abandonment issue, neglection, cheating, etc., etc. But then I have what everyone wants, the healing. And in family constellations, you use healing statements. Healing statements have a vibration that when I say it, the right one, it stays in that frequency stays in balance, that part of the family tree. It's not only balanced for me, it will stay in the family tree so no one will
Mhm.
repeat it. So I have also 9 cards that I use for that. And I'm very happy with what I've been seeing. Like yesterday in my class, when I do my classes, I give the description, the theory, but I always want each class to be an opportunity for you to see something, right? And yesterday we were talking about the interrupted movement of the mother, right? How does that separation? So one person in the class took the interrupted movement, and others ones like different things. But there was one person who took adoption, and she's like, "But I'm not adopted." And I was like, "But sometimes a foster family, sometimes you have a caregiver. Your mom needs to fly, and you stay with that person, you know." She's like, "No," and she's like, "Because you open the field, then the information is gonna come, right? Anytime from now on, right? It's gonna." Then we are talking about other things. And then she's like, "Oh, I remember." And I was like, "What?" My grandfather on my paternal side, he was a foster child. He lives in a foster home. And she's like, "Wait, we have the same birthday." And I was like, "Oh, that's what she's connecting with that information." So that information even is not manifesting with her own life. She carries with that, right?
Mm.
So that's the way that I use these oracle cards.
Are you
I
feeling?
shared,
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, I shared with Leo, I've been doing a lot of, well, obviously I co-host this podcast, so I'm very interested in all of the supernatural and mystical and spiritual things. And, lately I've been feeling like self-love has been like a big thing for me. It's something that I feel like I really need to understand, like where I'm missing something. And I had shared with Leo, I had this moment where I have the like most loving, wonderful parents. Like I adore them. But my mom got really sick when I was 11 years old. And I had to step into a lot of roles with like helping with my siblings and helping with the family. And I never, it never bothered me at that time, but I had that moment. I was like, it wasn't because my mother chose not to be present. It was, she was really sick. Like she just had a lot going on. And so there were a lot of things that ignited in me. Like I started getting into like horrible relationships one after another because I always wanted to help and fix people. I always wanted to make things better. I always wanted to find the way to do things. And it was just like you're talking about, like I'm sure that there's more. I'm sure we could probably have some really good conversations. But it was really interesting to me to have that moment of like, wow, I always thought like, oh, there's nothing that my parents could have done better or differently. They're amazing. And it was no one, I don't blame her for getting sick. It was just something that happened, but it was something that did have a big impact on me as a young, woman. And something that
Are
I
you the
carried
oldest?
through I'm the oldest. So it was something I carried with me for a very long time until one day I decided that I wasn't going to continue with the cycles and the patterns that I was in and started changing things. And Leo could tell you more about it. I mean, we did a very powerful Reiki session that opened up my heart in a very beautiful and wonderful way. But I am so intrigued by the work that you do, Alida. I think that it's absolutely fascinating. Yeah.
So I
But
think, are you
look,
feeling drawn to pull us some cards, Alida?
I already did.
Awesome.
um, Look, this is very interesting. Well, but this is for Julia because she was talking to me. Okay, so the moon is very interesting because the moon talks to you about the family lineage, but it talks to you about not your mom. It talks to you about grandmothers, great grandmothers. It tells you that there are secrets that hasn't been said. But the moon also tells you that you remember when I tell you that someone is gonna get sick because there's not enough feminine energy, right? There is an issue with the mothers. There is an entanglement with the mothers. I don't know what it is, but that's what happens in your family. But guess what? When I ask, what is the wound? What are the connections? So it's showing me unresolved pain, right? Something was so painful for one woman in the lineage that maybe didn't mourn it, maybe no one talked about it, maybe she didn't have the space to talk, that it created this stagnation that
Mm-hmm.
everyone is following because you are 11 years old and your mom got very sick, like you said. And moms are not supposed to get very sick. Moms are
No.
supposed to stay with their kids and help them when they are sick. So your mom didn't have enough feminine energy either, even though she got along with her mother beautifully, but there was not enough energy. Now, this is the healing statement, right? Breaking the cycle. In breaking the cycle is a general statement, but for me, this one means that you have to be willing, you have to have the will, you have to have the desire to give her back the weight that doesn't belong to you, even though when you think that she's not going to be able to carry it. And that's something that you cannot say that to your mother, but there is something that I'll do in a systemic exercise that basically you grab a pillow, but you have to hold it like this, right? And you feel the tension, right? You can grab a weight and you start imagining that it's getting heavier and heavier and you feel all of the muscles. It has to be very somatic. Feel all of the muscles and then you turn all the way and you put it down and you said, I'll give it back to you with love and gratitude. Because probably because you're a psychotherapist, like you know a lot about this, right? But probably you are still carrying with things that they don't belong to you. And I don't know what happened, but healing
Yeah.
also comes from you knowing the story. And it's as simple as knowing the story. What did my grandma like to do? What were her struggles? Did she wanted to study another thing? Did she really like to be a mom? All those things are very important for you because it's gonna
Mm-hmm.
fit and you are not gonna be seeking.
It's so you pulled the moon card, and Leo, I adore the moon. I love the moon. I am like that person. I just go outside and it's like I just want to see the moon. my daughter is 4, and about a year and a half ago, she told me, I used to live on the moon, and my mother there sent me to you.
How old is she?
She's 4 now. So when she was about 2.5, she told me, she said, I lived on the moon, and that's where I was. And she had a whole story, told me all about it. And she said, I had a mother there. And one day she said to me, you were going to go, and that I was going to be her mother.
That's beautiful.
And it's when you pulled the moon card. But we do. I mean, my maternal grandmother has a lot of she went through some really difficult situations that I do know about. I don't know beyond her. So I don't know, she went through a lot, but I don't know what happened prior. But my mother, my grandmother have both been through some pretty horrible things.
You know what's the first thing that I would, well, if you haven't asked me, but if I will give you an advice, is you can go to find a grave for family search.
Mhm.
Look, they have information from Peru, so you will find information from here.
Yeah.
And now you know your daughter's, your mom's birthdays, right?
Yeah.
If you type the names, they will come. So it will show you the birthday and probably the day that they die. And then
Hmm.
you take notes in a book, and then you will see the connections.
See the patterns.
Yeah,
That's so.
you will see that. You will see it.
So interesting.
We are, Alida, we're not done. We're going to be talking after this for sure. I said to Leo,
Absolutely.
I said, when you filled out your guest application, I was like, there's something I'm very drawn to her. I don't know her. And not too long ago, Leo and I went for a coffee, and he told me, he's like, Alida's
Yes.
actually here in the coffee shop, and I have one of her pamphlets that I'm going to give to you.
Oh, we
And
met.
I was like,
The day I ran into you. The day I ran into
Yeah.
you
you.
saw Leo. I didn't actually get to meet you at that point, but we will be talking more for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I love to talk about these things because I've seen so many things, right? Um, I There's no coincidences with this.
No, no. I one of the other things that I want to ask about, because I think that your Peruvian heritage is, I find that there's just so much. I feel like it goes so much deeper than people realize. How do you feel like that's really influenced your approach to healing, compared to just like Western therapeutic models?
I'm gonna tell you something that I dropped off my daughter to her friend's house, and now it's gonna snow, right? And
Mm,
the mom's friend told me like, it's gonna snow. Now we have to shoveling. And I said, but I don't care. We are gonna burn like 800 calories if you shovel. That's good. Like 2 days of going to a gym. So I think that my brain, my there was no impossible.
mm,
And I do past life regressions, and I read this book of Dolores Cannon. There was someone under hypnosis, and he said like, it's so funny. Humans think that they cannot fly. It's so funny, and in this hypnosis. But you know what, Julia? I think that I can fly. So that's what I don't worry. I don't think that there is limit. And also connected to, I see a lot of people, and I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. I'm telling you from my perspective that they
mm,
want to do a lot of energy cleanses. Like you're gonna do a session, you have to cleanse yourself. But my grandfather, who did a lot of things with Wiccan, with magic, a lot, he will say like, you don't have to do anything. You have to just to think, because we are all connected. Like my family, we are all connected and
yes.
we are all clean. So you don't have to even think of protecting yourself, right? So I feel that I have so much information in my family, but I also was raised like we didn't have food because the terrorism, right? There was a bomb in the corner of my house. So I think that made
Mm,
me very resilient. I don't get offended, like I don't get like worried. I'm so comfortable here. I have AC in the summers and I have heat. I mean, what else can I ask for, right? This is amazing. So I am very positive. I think, and I have seen it also in plant medicine when people they go to our lodge. We've been open for 18 years. Amazing things happen when you believe. The first thing is my will, right? To do something because I trust in this. I believe in this process. So I think that everything can be done. I'm not afraid. I'm afraid in Lima, in Peru, because I know that there are a lot of thieves. They might take my cell phone, right? That thing make me nervous, right? But I'm not afraid of diseases. I'm not afraid of what is going to happen in the world. Everything is going to be fine. That's what I think. So sometimes I am like, everything's happening for a reason always. So why am I even going to doubt? Why? This house, I don't know if I told you, Leo, this house where I am here, last year my husband told me, I don't know if we are going to make it with a down payment. And I was like, my husband's name is Charles, but we call him Carlos because no one is going to call him Charles in Peru. So I said, like, Carlos, something magical is going to happen and we're going to get a house. Guess what? Me, Alida, I don't know how, I contact the first woman that I met when I moved here in this little local bank. And I said, like, we want to get a house, and Carlos doesn't know what to do. And she said, like, today is my last day in the bank, but you can apply to this grant for people who are BIPOC. And I look really BIPOC for me. So I applied and I won. So they gave me like over $50,000 for the down payment, and I don't have to pay them back. And I called my husband to the satellite phone in the Amazon to tell him, Carlos, I got the grant. Carlos didn't believe me. And I'm like, wonderful things are always happening, but not at the time that we want. And that's the problem, the attachment. I think that I'm going to be happy if tomorrow doesn't snow. No, that's not true. So that's the way that I see it. Like, I was telling my daughter, like, I don't turn on the AC very much, being honest, here during the summer because I like the 90 degrees. But sometimes in the car, she wants me to turn on the AC. And I said, like, I never had an AC. You just go like this, you know? But then she said something. She's like, don't you do family constellations? I'm not you. Why did I teach her? Right? And so that's true.
Well, this was an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
So, Alida, how can people work with you? How can they reach you?
I have my website, ayamama.org, and we just established a new nonprofit for plant medicine that is Aya Heritage Institute.com. I do sessions online and in person. I am located in Oxford, Massachusetts, and you just go to my website and you just book. But at the bottom of my website, I have a link to do a free consultation if you want to talk to me before you go.
Awesome. And we'll
Alida,
put all that in the show notes.
yeah. Alida, if humanity could collectively heal one inherited trauma pattern right now, what would it be?
Abandonment. I'm sorry.
And how would that shift our collective consciousness? So abandonment, but how do you feel like that would shift our collective consciousness?
I think that abandonment makes you keep seeking and keep seeking for something, right? Because nothing is enough. It was not enough. And there is this healing statement that I said that thanks God I told my dad before he passed, it was enough. And when it's enough, I don't keep seeking, I don't keep fighting. Because I don't try to fill my ego with my own truth or fill you with my own truth. It's just what it is, right? I think that abandonment also blocks love. So I cannot pass and love unconditionally with an
Mhm.
abandonment issue. But I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to be very honest, and maybe I'm going to be controversial. Abandonment issue, for a person who has been abandoned, you try to help others because you don't want the other ones to feel bad, correct? But you know what? The other person didn't ask you. There is a word that you cannot say, and I didn't know that you cannot say it in English. That is, it starts with N and is related to the color of my skin. And my friend from Peru came to visit, and they called me in Peru that name. But it's a nickname, right? I mean, they are not gonna call me Blondie, right? So we went to a ski world, and she was drinking a chocolate thing. I don't like chocolate.
Like a
So
hot
she called
cocoa.
me by that. Yeah. So she called me by that name. That is my nickname. So I turned, but someone understood and started yelling at my friend. We are friends since 1988. And I was like, I didn't know. That's the day that I understood. So I didn't ask that person to help me. I can survive, right? But probably that person had an abandonment wound or a rejection wound or a neglected wound, and they thought they were helping me, but I didn't ask for that help. And they were breaking the order of giving and receiving because I didn't want to receive that, and I didn't ask for that. And I think that if we heal the hearts of everyone that they have been abandoned and they can love unconditionally, everything will be better.
Good message.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. Did you have anything else, Julia?
No, Alida, it was an honor. Thank you so much for this time and for sharing. I really hope that people who are curious about this, like I am, will be reaching out to you like I'm going to.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Leo. There's no coincidences. For some reason, we are
Not
here.
at all. Right. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this. Till next time. Bye.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
And to our listeners, if something stirred in your body, your breath, or your awareness during this conversation, trust that. Healing doesn't always arrive as answers. Sometimes it arrives as resonance.
And if you want more information on Mystery of the Soul, go to our website at www.mysteryofthesoul.com. And if you're interested in more about Leo's services, go to his website at www.leojmccarthy.com, and you can always book a free discovery session with him.
And if you're interested in the services that I'm able to provide, please visit arisewithjulia.com for any information about Dr. Julia LeBlanc. This has been Mystery of the Soul. Until next time, stay curious, stay embodied, and keep listening.